Check 1 2. Hey, hey. Check 1 2. Hey, hey. 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hey, hey.
getting you?
Yeah. This starts at 3, right?
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of items on the agenda.
No, we just have 5 cases. But if other respondents don't show up, then they'll probably move that one first. Hey, how are ya? Good. Just reminding you about the 3 o'clock code enforcement meeting. Okay, see you shortly. Thanks, bye. should be here.
Albert's not here.
He's here.
Mateo's here?
We
Great.
got here at 2:00.
Can he even be heard? Because he's not
I don't know.
listed on the LLC.
That's a Dan question.
You got a new special magistrate?
Why? Does it say something different? D. Andrew?
I thought we had somebody named Drew.
Yeah. He goes by Drew.
Oh, okay.
What, did I put something different?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If anybody is going to offer testimony today, if you just remain standing and raise your right hand, I'll swear everybody in at once. Do y'all swear or affirm the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Thank you. The clerk reminded me to introduce myself. I'm Drew Smith. I'm the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate for the City of St. Cloud. My role in these proceedings is to be an independent trier of fact. I am not employed by the city. I am retained for precisely that purpose, to sit in these proceedings and act as an arbiter of fact. The order of proceedings for each case will be the city will present its evidence and testimony. After that has been received, I will offer the respondent an opportunity to cross-examine if there's any cross-examination, or to offer their own evidence and testimony. When I've heard all the evidence, then I will enter a verbal ruling today, which will be followed in the mail by a written order. And with that, clerk, you may call our first case.
Well, Mr. Smith, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Dan Manzares, City Attorney. So just to update you on the agenda, the second case listed on the agenda, 509 Ponderosa Drive, that case will be no pros today.
Okay.
And I also believe that we have individuals present here for case, the 1004 New York Avenue, which is 2025-960 St. Cloud LLC, Hotel
Okay.
LLC, and also the Kentucky Avenue case.
Okay.
So with a special magistrate's indulgence, we'd like to take those two cases
Absolutely. Whatever
first.
order you would like, I'm happy to take them in that order. Would you want to take 1004 New York Avenue first?
Yes, sir. If we
Okay.
call that.
Call that case.
Case number 2025-960, St. Cloud Hotel LLC owner, David Fong, registered agent, location of violation, 1004 New York Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida.
And again, Dan Manzares for the city. So Officer Neal will present to you on this case today regarding the ongoing violations at this property located in downtown St. Cloud. Also here will be the Fire Marshal, Mr. Richard Tonks, who will also present to you, and Mr. Bob Dethridge, the city's building official, is here also for possible testimony as needed. And with that, I'll turn it over to Officer Neal.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I am presenting this case for the property located at 1004 New York Avenue. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the courtesy notice sent to the owner and the registered agent, copy of the updated courtesy notice sent to the owner and the registered agent, a copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail to the owner and the registered agent, copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner, the registered agent, and posted on the property and City Hall, a copy of the affidavit of posting, a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, evidence of mailings, copy of the deed to the property, copy of the code sections in violation, copy of the costs incurred if the special magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $356.47.
Thank you.
On October 1st, 2025, I had a meeting with Tisha Manning, Jason Miller, Richard Tonks, and Dan Manzares, the city attorney, about the condition of this property and the permits being disapproved and never obtained. And I took 4 photos. On October 2nd, a courtesy notice was sent to the owner to the mailing address on property appraisers and the registered agent. On October 7th, an updated courtesy notice was sent to the owner to the mailing address on the property appraisers and the registered agent. On October 22nd, I checked and the permit was still disapproved. The owner did not provide the required documents to finish processing the application. I took 2 photos. On October 22nd, a notice violation was sent to the owner to the mailing address on Property Appraisers and to the registered agent by certified mail. On December 8th, I checked and the permit had been resubmitted and was still disapproved because the owner still did not provide the required documents to finish processing the application. On December 8th, a statement of violation and notice of hearing was sent to the owner to the mailing address on Property Appraisers and to the registered agent by certified mail, posted on the property and City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed, and I took 3 photos. On December 30th, I checked and the permit was still disapproved, still not providing the required documents to finish the application. On January 16th, I checked and the permit was still not obtained, and now there is a roof panel on the middle dormer hanging and another starting to lift. I took 3 photos. That's where the panel's coming off. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of allowing the building to remain a safety issue and danger to the public, and to have the permit obtained by January 30th. Let me do this. By January 30th, 2026, or pay a fine of $1,000 a day until compliance is met. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing the case before the special magistrate in the amount of $356.47 to be paid within 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And that concludes my presentation.
And Mr. Smith, if I
Predicting my
could,
question?
I'm sorry.
Are you predicting my question?
Probably, but I also want to clarify something before I answer your question. So the recommendation from the officer, to clarify, the city is requesting not just we're basically obtaining all required permits, but correcting the dangerous situation regarding to the building. So that's what we're really looking from a compliance perspective.
And I have some questions there, but not for you. And my question for you is, what's the justification, or what's the legal support for the $1,000 a day fine?
Well, I think it's important to remember, and the building official here can testify to you as the length of time this building has been in the state that it's been building, and it's been in. This is a project that has been ongoing for several years, and the city has been trying to work with the property all that time.
The factual basis, yes, I'll ask the witnesses that. I'm asking you the statutory basis for the $1,000 a
Well,
day
I think
fine.
it goes back to the 3 criteria that's set there, the significance of the violation, which is obviously this is serious, which the fire marshal and the building official will talk to you about. We believe one of the most important parts here is the cooperation of the respondent. The respondent this permit this building has not had a permit for over 6 months now, and they continue to not move forward to get the permit, as well as continuing to work on this project for years. So they have not cooperated with the city. So those are the 2 criteria set forth in the statute.
That's what I'm looking for. We're just looking for the statutory reference of what gives me the authority to impose a fine of $1,000
Then the
a
other
day.
piece is the city's ordinance, our ordinance, since we are a population above 50,000, allows us to adopt, to have the enhanced fine,
That's
which
what I
the
was
city passed by ordinance. I'm sorry.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. I thought you'd brought that at a prior hearing, but I wanted to make the record on this one, too.
Right,
That was
yes.
the reason for the escalated
I'm
fines.
sorry. Thank you.
Or the legal basis. Code enforcement, if I could have you back up. Thank you, Dan. So you heard some of that exchange, and what I'm going to ask you, and I know you have other witnesses you will present, is there anything more that code enforcement wanted to tell me about the condition of the property, or are you going to be relying on the other witnesses for that?
I'm going to rely on the
Okay.
other witnesses.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if we could have the building official come up, and Mr. Dethridge, I just asked him to explain the history of the building and the building permits and all where we sit with regard to a existing building permit or the lack of a permit for the
Okay.
project. Mr. Dethridge.
All right, Bob Dethridge, building official for the city of St. Cloud. This project has been going on for over 6 years. They still have not covered up the interior structural members of the building. The stairwells are still open, front and rear. You know, God forbid anything happens in there, you'd never put a fire out. The building has no windows, so it's not completely watertight. We haven't been in it in quite some time, so I have no idea what type of damage there is inside the building, because it's all structural framing.
Mr. Dethridge, is there a permit issued for the building?
No,
Active permit?
there is no permit for the building now. They have satisfied building department comments, but there are other departments that have outstanding comments that have not been satisfied.
Do you happen to know what those outstanding comments are?
There's no certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Board, and zoning had a comment about a two-story addition on the back of the building that was not included in the certificate of appropriateness.
Do you have any other questions for the
And
witness?
in your opinion, as a building official, does the building in its current state pose a serious threat to the public health, safety, and welfare?
It most certainly does pose a serious threat.
Any other questions?
I have no further questions.
And we'd also ask the Fire Marshal, Richard Tonks, if he can address it, talk to you about the fire issues. And as you'll see in the presentation, and it's important, the presentation by the Officer Neal on this, one of the bigger issues, as the building official also referred to, has to do with the condition of the building with regard to fire suppression and the fire department's ability to address a tragedy, and essentially if the building was, and that's one of the code violations that's been cited for
Yes, sir.
today. If you could, Fire Marshal.
So I just heard from a witness that if there was a fire in there, there'd be no way of putting it out. So I'm assuming you're going to elaborate on that for me.
Yes, good afternoon. Richard Tonks, Fire Marshal for the City of St. Cloud. So, yes, in my opinion, this building is unsafe and a life safety hazard, not only to our fire crews, but also to the general public. As the building official stated, there is no drywall protecting the structural members of this building. So it's essentially a giant tinderbox with open stairwells, which makes it a chimney for a very quick, rapid fire spread. Over the years, there hasn't been any windows on the building, so water intrusion has gotten in, allowing for probably wood to rot, making it even more unstable. The fire sprinkler system was removed years ago so that they could do work inside, because it was in the middle of timbers and stuff that had to go in place. And to this day, the fire sprinkler system, all the piping is still removed with no efforts being made to correct that. So if a fire should break out, it's going to spread rapidly. We've already given our firefighters the order, if there's no life safety hazard in the building, we're not going to add to that life safety hazard and put them into an area that's weakened and also has an open elevator shaft that they could fall down into. And should this building have a significant fire in it, the chances of collapse are there, and there's buildings very close to that.
How close are the buildings surrounding it? That was one of my questions for you.
15 feet, if that?
If you can't answer, we'll have someone else.
Oh, yeah, it's not very far. I'd say 15 feet's probably the
Close
most.
enough that you would be concerned about fire spreading to other buildings?
Spreading or a collapse, destructing that, or also onto 10th Street, which is a busy street. There's probably only 10 feet between the building and 10th Street and New York Avenue. So, do you have any
I have no
questions? for me?
further questions. Does the city have anything else?
No, we don't.
Any further witnesses?
Thank you.
No.
I may have some more questions once I hear from the respondent, but the respondent is present. The respondent you can come up, sir. Okay. Before we start, I don't think you were sworn in earlier. Do you swear from the testimony you give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
And if you'd start by stating your name and your relationship to the property for me.
My name is Mateo Hodo, and I am the project manager for the property.
Okay.
I've been the project manager for it since 2019 till today.
Okay. And so you've heard the city's position and you've heard the city's concerns. What do you want me to hear?
Well, I'd like you to hear my side. So the moment the first violation came, I contacted the code enforcement officer and requested a site meeting to point out all of the code violations so that we can correct them. I was told that the number one concern was that we didn't have a permit. So the permit, we've been working on getting it since July of this year. It's when we reapplied. So our old permit expired, and we were asked to resubmit all the plans to 2023 codes as the code cycle changed. We submitted in July. The city responded very fast. By the end of July, our architect and MEP engineer responded to the comments and made all the responses ready, and they were ready for submittal since August. My understanding was that it was submitted, and my understanding was that the city requested that we submit civil drawings as well. Therefore, we had to hire a site surveyor to survey the building, give us accurate locations, and develop civil plans. And then I was told that it was requested all together at once. I'm not sure what happened, but I didn't realize that that process was not going through as I was letting our general contractor manage it between him, as the city requested that the general contractor manages all that, until the code violations started coming in, and then I started getting involved on what was going on. We did submit the plans to the city. There was an error from the city's perspective on reviewing them. They reviewed the wrong files. This is why the permit was not approved in December. As of right now, I have Can I bring this to you?
Anything you show me, I'm going to have to keep, so as long as it's a copy.
Yeah, it's a copy.
Okay.
And-
If you'd show council first, make sure you didn't have any objection to it.
So the only thing that is, it's the historic preservation. We are requested to apply for a new certificate of appropriateness, and we're told that that is expired. I requested information today in order to reapply for and get on the next HPB meeting. As far
If I may, Mr. Smith, we don't have any objection to this. It's also consistent with what Mr. Dethridge testified as to the building department's review.
So that is all the records from when we applied to where we stand today. And on the last page, you will see that building is approved, mechanical is approved, electrical is approved, everything is approved besides certificate of appropriateness.
And zoning.
And zoning, which is because of the certificate of appropriateness. Now, a couple years ago, I actually worked directly with the state. I believe it was Dr. Lucas from the Historic Preservation for the state of Florida to get it recognized as a historic landmark, including all of the design that was changed since then. And it was approved, including the restaurant and the buildings out back, because what my goal with the project is that this building has been vacant for over 30 years. And prior to me getting involved, this was a big can of worms that no one could figure it out. I mean, we had to rebuild a building within a building. So we had to support what was there, remove all the old existing structural walls, dig out the old existing foundation because it wasn't proper for this building, pour new foundations, and then fix all of the floor levels, then do new load-bearing walls over the new foundations, and make it as a monolithic slab with cold joints so that it's all one. And we have repaired the structure from foundation all the way to the roof. The structure is very solid. That structure is not going anywhere. The reason why it's in the stage that it is because our permit is expired. We had to re-update our plans for all the MEPs and electrical and plumbing. The building is actually being monitored. The fire chief is fully aware. We pay for monitoring for fire, and it's live. And if a fire were to go off, then the monitoring would go off, which I'm assuming that we'll probably get into it in time before it spreads anywhere. I have zero concern if the building totally burns down. The building is not going to collapse on another building. It has 3 layers of brick on the outside, and it has 2x6 wall on all the perimeters on the inside. Let's say the entire structure burns down on the inside, that building has zero chance of actually tipping over and falling. It will literally be like a chimney and everything would go up. But it's being monitored. There's a fire monitoring system and it's live and it's active, and it has been active ever since we took off the old sprinkler system. The building has been designed for a new sprinkler system. We will test it for DBA to make sure that the radios work in case of a fire later on. So everything is in plan. There was a little misunderstanding on the permitting process. That's why it took so long, but the permit should be active now, and the HPB certificate of appropriateness, I'm sure it will be resolved one way or another. The buildings in the back, even when I was working with the state for approving the changes that we made, and the whole thesis on this is because we're trying to unify the entire building and make it one. And it was approved. And then later on, I was told that the restaurant is separate and it has earned its own significance of historic preservation. So a new certificate of appropriateness was provided to us with the restaurant remaining as is. Now the restaurant we're going to do a lot of structural changes to the restaurant. Even though the restaurant seems attached to the building, if you were to come inside the building, you can see that it's not really attached or not attached properly, which is what the problems with this building have been for so long. Whoever has done work on it before has not really done quality, good work to make sure that this building is never a problem for this community ever again. And that is it's my promise to the building itself, that I'll make sure that as long as I'm involved with it, until I am done with it, at the very least, that structure and that facade will not be a problem for this community ever again. My goal is to not allow anything to happen to that building to turn into blight again. I want to respond back to the flying panel on the roof. We have been in a lawsuit for the roof for now almost over a year. There is an inspection from the manufacturer of the roof next week on the 26th at 11 a.m. that I'll be present for. I was told not to touch anything on the roof since the legal case started, but I personally hurricane-proofed the building, so I took all the scaffolding off. As you saw in the picture, it's only the skeleton of the scaffolding, so which is secured to the building. If any strong winds come, it will not take it away. And they did, and nothing happened. But when I waterproofed the building, and behind all of the plywood windows, there is plastic. So there is no water damage to the building. All of the wood members are absolutely intact and fine. And when I closed that dormer, that panel was actually bent. And I'm thinking that it was bent by the roofers because they tore the bottom of the dormers apart because they were leaking, even after final inspection failed from the city on the old permit prior to it expiring. So that panel, it's actually screwed every 6 inches as per manufacturer recommendations all the way up. And then the panel that comes to the valley of the dormer, it's also locked into it. So when I was closing the dormer window, I actually looked at that. One, because I didn't like the way it looked. And then I thought about actually removing it. But to remove it, it was very unsafe to actually remove it, especially without tie downs from the top. Even though I was told not to touch the roof, I was going to remove it if I felt that that panel would fly off. But that panel, it would really be impossible for it to fly off by the amount of screws that it is secured and the way that it's locked at the valley up atop from the panel that's on the side of it. Does that make any sense? So then I was going to cut it because I didn't like the way that it looks, but then I remember that I was specifically told by the attorneys not to touch anything on the roof and leave it as they left it. So therefore, I didn't even cut the panel. I left it. I closed the dormer window, dismantled all the scaffolding prior to the old permit expiring, secured the entire building. So there is no entry point to the building unless someone decides to either cut a piece of plywood, because that's also 3/4 plywood that's on all those windows, or break in. But if somebody wanted to break into a building, they could break into any building. The fencing is secured, the scaffolding is secured, that panel is safe, the building has fire monitoring, and I finally resolved the miscommunication and misunderstanding on the permit.
Can I see the
And I also,
permit log again? Go ahead.
I think,
When did the permit expire?
I believe, maybe building official
I'll
can
ask him.
correct me if
It's
I'm-
okay. If you don't
But
know,
I,
I'll ask.
it
I'll
was,
ask him.
it was July, I believe. It was either end of June or beginning.
25?
This year, yes. And the moment that the old permit expired, we applied for the new one.
Why did the old permit expire?
It's a good question.
Ask the building official.
The old permit expired. That's a really good question. I think it's mainly to update all the plans to make it so that everything is to 2023 codes because
That's not why building permits expire. Building permits expire for inaction.
inaction. Yes, so maybe there was slow action. There was action, but
Building
slow
permits
action.
don't expire for slow action. Building permits expire for inaction. Why did the building permit expire?
I was told that there was no work that qualified to pass an inspection.
Okay.
I wanted to build the additions in the back. I could not build the additions in the back because there is, if you notice on the pictures, the scaffolding in the back of the building to where the two-story additions are has been removed because I was getting ready to pour the foundations for the building in the back, and I was actually getting ready to run the underground plumbing before I pour the foundations because the mechanical room is in the back two-story building. When I was getting ready to do that, as we started digging, we figured out that the plumbing service that's coming from the street into the building, it's incorrect. It's sized at 4-inch while our building requires 6-inch, and it's actually pitched wrong. So the street is actually dumping into our property rather than actually falling back into the street. So the water line, it's a 1-inch water line when our plans require a 2.5-inch water line. So the water supply and the drainage is not proper. Therefore, I couldn't pull a plumbing permit to run underground plumbing before I could do the addition of the buildings in the back. That's why that stopped.
So you say the existing infrastructure is not sufficient for the building?
As of right now, no.
Just so-
The existing infrastructure is 4-inch. There is 3 supplies. One of the supplies is,
less the technicality of it, the concept of it is what I'm trying to understand. So the existing infrastructure, let me make sure I understand correctly what you're trying to tell me. You're saying that the existing infrastructure does not fit the plans that have been prepared for the building?
correct. The existing infrastructure, it's a 1-inch water line, which would be more for a single-family domestic, and it's a 4-inch drain that is actually not pitched properly.
Was that not known when the plans were prepared?
I don't know, it was kind of hard to tell because the pipe that comes up from the ground, it's a 4-inch new PVC, but once we started digging down, we actually found out that that 4-inch PVC is actually connected to a clay pipe under the ground that's also 4-inch, and the pitch is incorrect. It actually pitches towards the property, not away from the property. So my plumbing contractor did not feel comfortable to do the underground work to get ready for that. And I contacted Toho Water and met them on site and started a process for them to review and correct that. I haven't had an active permit, therefore I haven't followed up with them where we stand on that. And also, I forgot to mention to you, sir, the buildings in the back were never considered as historic significance throughout my entire time in this project. And this project has been brought to historic preservation more than once, and it has been approved.
That's neither here nor there for me
but-
today. You know, the case that's been presented to me is we have an unsafe structure that's sitting there.
So this is what my question is, and this is why I contacted the code officer, and I wanted a site meeting so that I can be pointed at and be told what is really unsafe. Because no one can enter the building unless they choose to break into the building, which is posted for street passing, and the local officers like Officer McDonald or Fougier, they know the building. So everybody keeps an eye on the building. The building is very safe for anyone entering, and
But what I'm hearing you tell me is the building is safe because if it catches fire, there are people paying attention and they'll catch it in time.
no.
That does not tell me it's a safe
If the
building.
building catches fire, the monitor should go off.
Right, the monitor will go off, but you're not telling me that it's a safe building. You're telling me that if something happens, it'll get caught in time.
But what would make it unsafe? Like, what would start a fire in there? There's nothing in there that would start a fire. The building is very clean.
Is there any electricity turned on?
Only to the fire monitoring and the Wi-Fi,
Okay, but there is electricity in the building.
correct? And the pole is outside of the building, the temporary pole, and it powers the monitoring system and the Wi-Fi. But there is nothing in there that would cause a fire. And if it does catch a fire, every single floor is monitored, and there is more, it's monitored to where it's sufficient, where it was sufficient.
Right, but telling me it's monitored is not the same as telling me that it's safe. And that's why I want you to talk to me about the safety of the building, not the safety of the mitigation of the building.
No, I understand, but this is where I lack the understanding myself to what makes it unsafe.
I will ask the city witnesses to come back up and give testimony on that, but just as a layperson, you know, as far as fire codes go, looking at it, I see a building that is somewhere in the middle of construction without construction being completed or moving forward, which to me signifies potentially unsafe building.
I can see that, and I agree with that, but we couldn't work on it. We couldn't work on it because we didn't have a permit.
Understood, but it's not the city's fault you didn't have a permit.
Correct, that is correct as well. But here we are.
Let me ask you to step back for a minute. I may have further questions for you, or I will give you the opportunity. Yes, sir.
May I ask a respondent just a couple
Sure.
quick questions? So, sir, you are not a licensed general contractor in the state of Florida.
I am the project manager, I'm
That
not the
was my
general.
question.
I am not, no.
Okay, you are not a structural engineer?
No, I'm not.
You are not a fire engineer, fire suppression engineer,
No,
alarm
I'm
system
not.
engineer?
I'm not.
No, okay. Do you have any certification related to building or construction? Any license or certification at all?
Not in the state of Florida.
All right, thank you.
So I am the owner's project manager for the
Understood.
building.
Yes, understood. Yeah, I'll ask if you have anything else. I'll give you an opportunity for rebuttal, but I do have some further questions for the city's witnesses. If you just take a couple steps back and maybe take a seat
Okay.
back there. Don't go too far though, because I'll invite you back up. And yes, I would like to start with fire, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So you heard the dialogue, and the main question, both respondents as well as mine, would like to have a better understanding of what the genuine risks are with the building in its current state.
Yes, sir.
And I think you heard the very specific, how would a fire start? And I think that's a jumping off spot for you, maybe.
Okay, and I have a few other points I had heard, if I can address those as well. So as far as a fire starting, there's several things could happen. Like Mateo said, there is electric going to the building, at least parts. Electric's a huge cause of fires. Homeless people coming in, arson is always a possibility, because it is a vacant building. Lithium-ion batteries that are associated with the construction tools inside, those are a huge problem nowadays, nationwide, worldwide, with starting fires. Lightning, that's a natural thing that sets buildings on fire. So a fire can definitely start in any building. We do have fires that start, excuse me, in vacant buildings. And as far as his comment about the alarm monitoring for the fire system, yes, there is heat detectors in the building that's monitored, and I have confirmed recently they're monitored, excuse me. But the heat detectors were in lieu of the sprinkler system that was removed. The sprinkler system is going to put a fire out. The heat monitors, I mean, wires can be cut, phone lines go down, alarm panels malfunction, they might malfunction all the time. So it's supposed to be a monitored sprinkler system in that building, is what it was designed to have. A fire can definitely spread rapidly in that building. As we said before, there's no protected structural members in the building.
Talk to me a little bit more about that. Help me understand that better when you say the protective structural members and how that slows down a fire.
Drywall. Drywall does have a protection rating to it, which protects the structural members, the studs, the floor joists, the rafters, the structural members of the building. So all of that is, it's wood. It's kindling. It can definitely burn should a fire start in there. With no fire sprinkler system, that fire is going to grow even more rapidly. And the fact that we've given our firefighters the order, if there's no life safety hazard known in there, do not go in. So that's going to further slow down any fire suppression in the building, which further eats away at the structural members of the building. And a collapse, regardless what he said, is possible. Brick buildings, they do collapse because of structural members coming down, because that's the integrity of the structure.
What is, in that building, and you may not know the answer to this question, but if you do, fill me in, what is structurally holding up the brick for that building?
I can't answer that right now.
Building official
Yes.
probably can. Okay.
And then just one other thing to clarify, I'm sorry, two other things. The building hasn't been vacant for 30 years. It has been, there have been businesses in that building just in the past 10 years, right before they started construction. And the last time that we were in that building to perform a inspection related to any of the permits was 2021. No work has been done that required the generation of a inspection of any of the permits from a fire code standpoint. So, do you have any
I have
questions
no
for me,
further
sir?
questions at this time.
Thank you.
If I could have the building official?
Yes, sir.
My first question, and it goes to the structural integrity. So you've heard this question of, if it were to catch fire, what is the collapse risk of the building? And you heard my question is, what's holding up that brick?
Well, there is a metal stud structure inside the building. They actually built a building inside a building and attached the existing brick to that. But as you may or may not know, metal in a fire elongates and loses its strength.
The Twin Towers in New York, that's a perfect example of that.
Yes.
As to the permitting process itself, from building department's perspective, why did the permits expire?
For lack of progress.
And forget the specifics of this case, just walk me through the process. How long does it take for a permit to expire? How long without any activity does it take for a permit to expire?
180 days.
So essentially 6 months.
Correct.
And does that mean no inspections being called in? Is that the trigger for that 180 day
Right.
period?
No inspections being called in, and the only thing that's been done in there is framing. There's been no mechanical, electrical, or plumbing work. We can't go in there and approve a framing inspection until the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work are done, because we have to verify that no structural elements have been compromised by the installation of those.
I see. Okay. Nothing further for building now, unless you have anything else you'd like to add. Respondent? Mr. Mateos? So you heard the testimony on the fire concerns and the structural concerns. I heard what you had to say earlier. Do you have any rebuttal to that, though? Anything that you would say to say that they're wrong, other than your personal opinion?
No, not really. The only thing that I question is if there is a call or the monitoring, the heat sensors go off, why would we let it burn? Why would we not go there and try to assess and catch the fire out? Because One, if it catches on fire, it's not gonna go all like that in a matter of 5 minutes. Yes, I understand that there is no sheetrock, but it's still under construction. So basically, all of the structural is not 100% complete because all of the MEPs needs to be done still, and there is no ratings on the walls. It's designed so that it has a fully sprinkled system and monitored system and the proper rating on all the walls to meet all the code requirements on the plans and which are approved. It's designed to be that. We haven't gotten there, but that's what we're working towards. In the meantime, or let's say this down period between the two permits, if a fire spread out, it would kind of be a waste to the entire community and the building itself to just let it burn just because there is nobody in there.
And I think you have just hit the nail on the head for why the city is bringing this case. And
Yes.
this is how I read the case, is that you have put the fire department in a position of having to decide, do I save the building? Or do I put my firefighters' lives at risk? So let me turn your question around.
Yes.
And why should one firefighter put his life at risk to save that building and the condition that it's in, when it's in that condition because of your delay?
So, as far as the structure itself, the structure is in a sound condition. The only thing
That's not what I'm hearing
Yeah.
from the experts.
So, is there anything structurally that's unsound for that building? Then maybe you should bring them and ask them again. Or maybe they should walk the building inside on all the
But
floors
what I've
again.
heard was because of the state of construction, that it is not in a state of construction that has the things that slow a fire down. That's what they're telling me, and that's what I'm hearing.
So we haven't gotten to that point.
I understand you haven't gotten to that point, and that's my point. You haven't gotten to that point because you have not progressed on your work. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Then why should a firefighter's life be put at risk because you have not been progressing productively on your work?
So we have been progressing. We just haven't been progressing on the, to the point that,
You could keep a permit from expiring. That is a failure.
I mean, we're at this point. It wouldn't even make any sense for me to even get into a discussion or a conversation for that. You know, it's already gone, it's already
Yeah.
passed. We're here. We're here now, and we can do what we can do to move forward.
So let's talk about that then, and let me,
And-
go ahead.
And one more thing.
Sure.
There is no lithium-ion batteries in the building. All the tools are out in the trailer out back. So the only thing is just the power going to the fire monitoring system and
Lightning.
lightning.
And lightning starts a lot of fires in Central Florida.
Lightning would hit the metal roof. We don't know. I mean,
Go ahead.
and as far as the vacancy of the building, yes, the tenant was there and it was on the restaurant. The restaurant is the only one that was active.
Yeah,
But
how long it's been vacant is not part of
It-
what's concerning me today either, so.
It is
yeah,
not,
yeah.
but as where we stand today, we are, it looks like we're approved and we'll get ready to
Close.
get going
It
again.
sounds like you're close to getting the permit in hand.
Yes.
Let me ask code enforcement, before I invite you up, Dan, and I do have some,
Can I make one?
Sure, go
just quick
ahead.
Point for the record, please, because my understanding is the owner, the principal behind the LLC is located out of the country on this. So I would want to make sure that this gentleman who's been addressing you has authority on behalf of the owner.
Okay.
And that the owner is aware of the proceedings today from a notice perspective.
okay, sure.
So is that, I mean, if you could just, I think we need that confirmation today.
Do you have questions you'd like to ask the
I just
respondent?
know, are you here, is the owner aware that you're here?
Yes, and I actually asked him to ask if he could be present via Zoom and asked him to ask directly for the city, but
Okay, well, we didn't receive that request, but
Okay.
he's aware that the owner,
sure,
the
he
principal
sure
behind the
is.
LLC.
This
Okay.
is why I flew down.
All right, thank you.
I have a couple questions for code enforcement. Okay, does that get you
Okay.
to step back for a minute?
Yes, sir.
And I'm asking code enforcement this question, and if there's a better witness in the room, feel free to ask that witness, to tell me who it is, and we'll call them up. But I'm asking code enforcement because this is more of the typical IPMC, analysis of it, which code enforcement is certainly competent to do. One of the violations that you've brought is the attractive nuisance to children who might play in the building or structures. Is there any open access points of this building?
I haven't gotten up close to it to go around the whole building and really look.
So help me understand the attractive nuisance complaint or allegation.
Well, anybody could break into that.
Anybody could break into my house also.
Right.
And that's why I'm specifically asking, are there access points? Because typically with attractive nuisances, we're talking about open access points.
I don't believe there's any open.
Okay. Let me go ahead and I'll ask building the same question. If you would just come up and I'll ask that question just to make the record and make sure that I get building's perspective too. Is building department aware of any open access points that would make entry itself the attractive nuisance? Because that's really the concern. If somebody sees an access point and says, oh, I'm going to go play in there, I'm going to go sleep in there.
Currently, no, but we have had the windows broken out in the front of the building.
But they're not broken currently.
They're boarded up.
I'm going to ask, Dan, you to come up, and maybe more to coordinate than anything else, but I want to have a conversation on timing. So the request that's been made is to have the location brought in compliance by January 30th. Permits in hand by January 30th, based on what I've heard. Maybe I've got a couple of questions there, but complete compliance as in work completed, not by January 30th.
Yeah, that would be unreasonable.
Right, but I know that's part of what the city is asking for, is to have some kind of benchmark for, once permits are in hand, moving it forward.
That's correct.
Is keeping that permit alive sufficient to achieve that? Not allowing the permit to expire, so that the work has to continue being done, the inspections have to be being called in, so that that permit stays alive. Is that enough, or is there more detail the city wants built into that plan?
I think we would want more detail built into that plan, as the history has shown, and as you have gleaned from the testimony provided, this permit, the old permit, was in existence for a long time and extended, and then ultimately expired due to lack of performance. So we would want to avoid that sort of extension of any existing permit. So I do think it's entirely within the scope of the authority to set a time limit on
Sure.
when that permit when the work would have to be completed, even if there was an appropriate permit.
And I'm happy to consider that, I just need to hear what it is.
You know, it's tough. Let me answer it this way. As you heard, most of the city's concern right now is the condition of that building, the way it is, and the uncompleted state, and the fact that there is no active construction going on, and the building is vacant and is empty. You couple that with the location of that building in probably the most high-traffic area, pedestrians, vehicles, other buildings going on, it aggravates the circumstance as it relates to a dangerous structure. So to go back to some of the questioning you had earlier with regard to, we talked about the attractive nuisance piece. The location of this building, I think, makes it more of an attractive nuisance, other than the fact that it may be sealed for, to restrict access. Right, permit. I think that's part of what goes into that. So what the city would be really looking for is issuance of that permit, and then to address make sure that the dangerous structure elements of it, the issues of fire protection are taken care of, the issue of fire suppression, and ultimately either some sort of restraints or some sort of fencing or something that is in place to basically seal the building off.
Is there room to fence that building?
I'm not aware. I don't know if there is or isn't.
Okay.
There was, at one point, there was some fencing up when they were doing original demolition, as I remember, initial demolition on it. But as you heard, one of the big issues of it is the lack of fire protection, fire suppression systems and all that. And we would think that at the very least would have to ultimately be taken care of, fairly quickly.
Okay.
And we understand this is a very difficult case and it's a different project, but you know, the city's been patient a long time on this project and to get to this point.
Let me get the respondent back up then. As to fire suppression, is it feasible to move in the fire suppression system sooner rather than later?
It's part of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Assuming you have the permits issued, can you prioritize the fire suppression, both for why we're here today, but also for the safety of any workers who are in there? Because, to your point, there might not be lithium-ion batteries in there today, but as soon as work starts going on in there again, it will. So is it feasible to move up and get done sooner rather than later, the fire suppression, so that anybody in that building has at least that protection going for them?
Can it? Yes. It's all part of the design. It will all be done together.
Is there any reason not to move the fire suppression?
Yes, it would be in the
What
way.
is that reason?
It would be in the way for all the other stuff. They have to be in conjunction together, because once you run a sprinkler pipe down, if anything, you don't want it to be in the way of something else. The building is fenced, so I figured I would answer that question.
Okay, so it already is fenced.
It's been fenced. It's been fenced ever since construction started, and the fence is locked, and there is no access within.
Is there any access to any access through the fence to the building anywhere?
Yeah, if you unlock the gate.
But if the gate is closed and locked, then the access the
No,
building would be
no.
secured?
If someone wanted to break in, yeah, like you said, they could break into your house.
But would they have to break in through the fence?
They have to go in through the fence, or they have to break in through the
Go out
plywood
over or
and-
through the fence
Yes,
before they could even get to the
correct.
building?
Or they would break in the windows of the restaurant, which is on 10th Street, and it's
And not fenced?
and not fenced. It can't be fenced because it's literally right on the sidewalk.
Okay.
There hasn't been any break-ins though, for the amount of time that there haven't been any tools stolen, no break-ins, no nothing.
Well, there's no tools in there, you just said.
I understand, but when we were working prior to the permit expiring, and there were all sorts of tools.
Well, and understand that from a city's perspective, working and not working, that's one of the reasons why not working makes it
Yes.
an attractive
So-
nuisance, is because
so-
there's nobody there keeping an eye on it.
Yes, my goal is to get it working again, and what I want to get it working is as soon as possible.
Once those permits are issued, how soon will you have crews in that building?
Right away, but my understanding is that the permits are issued. The only thing it's a certificate of appropriateness, which has nothing to do with any of the other aspects of that.
And Mr. Smith, that's not correct.
No?
The certificate of appropriateness, because this is a historic building.
It's a condition to
is a
the permit
condition
being
to the permit.
issued.
The permit cannot be
I
issued.
saw
without
that in the
certificate
permit
of
law,
appropriateness.
yes. Yes, so the permit has not been issued yet, but the permit is waiting on that. Is the certificate of appropriateness the only thing holding up the permit?
Technically, yes.
When will that go before the historic board for hearing? Another
Ms.
witness.
Manning.
Yes. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. It is not scheduled
Start
to
by
go.
your name and title for the record
Sorry.
for me.
Tisha Manning, zoning manager. So the permit is currently disapproved by the COA because the permit, number one, what was submitted is outside the scope of what the certificate of appropriateness approved in July of '22 originally approved. And also, the certificate of appropriateness expired in 2024. So, and for him to get back before the board, he would need to resubmit his it doesn't necessarily have to go back for a resubmittal of the application. He needs to apply for the extension, and he needs to submit the plans that were previously approved. And that's the work that he needs to complete. But in conversations with the applicant and our department, he wants to change the plans. So if he changes the plans, then he needs to go back before the board.
Okay. So if moving forward with existing plans, conforming existing plans, no hearing is required,
He would just need to apply for an extension, correct?
the extension of what's expired, is that?
Correct.
So it'd be reopened and then extended, is that how that would work?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think I understand. Thank you, and let me get the respondent back. So did you, I think I understood that, did you understand? what
No,
was-
not really. Can you please?
So as I understand it, the certificate of appropriateness is expired, that we were already on the same page on. In order to get the permits issued, either that expired certificate of appropriateness will have to be reopened and extended, which you could do by submitting the currently submitted plans that were submitted before? Correct. Yes? So the work that was originally planned, submitting those plans, that could form the basis for the extension, which could be done without hearing. But if you want to change the plans now to something that was never heard before, that will be a new certificate of appropriateness and will require to go through the entire process again.
So this is where I'm a little bit confused, because they are the same plans. The design on the plans is the same as the first certificate of appropriateness.
If they're the same, but that's what was just testified to, that if it's the same as what went through the first process, then all you have to do is submit those plans.
So these plans have been redesigned on architectural, structural, historic, all of the aspects since 2021, 2022 now. And these plans is really what I fought through the state to get approved, and I did get approved. And the first certificate of appropriateness that I received is in accordance with all of the changes, including the restaurant. In July of that same year, 3 months later, I was told that there was a mistake and that the restaurant gained its own significance separate from the existing structure. Therefore, the restaurant has to be remained the same. So the new certificate of appropriateness that I received in July keeps that restaurant remaining the same. The struggle that I had with all the changes that I made in order for them to be approved, it all stands on the thesis of reuniting and making everything one, so that from this point forward, ever since the fire that it burned down in 1909 and it got rebuilt in 1910, it has had the most major rebuild ever since. It literally is being brought back from the dead. And all of this addition that was done, the restaurant, which was added in the 60s at some point, all of these additions that were done are now being unified as architectural, design, structural, and all that. Now, when that came to me and I was told that the restaurant has to be remained the same, and I had to provide a rendering that kept the restaurant the same but kept the building as it's redesigned, at the time, I really didn't have the time and energy to go back and refight for it, and as I was just got done fighting for it and why it's being redesigned this way and why it got approved. So this is where I'm standing a little bit confused here, because I have two certificates of appropriateness. I have one in February or March, which if I may be allowed, I can pull it up from my phone because it's saved in my files. Unfortunately, I didn't print it because I didn't think it was going to be part of the conversation. So I have a certificate of appropriateness sealed and stamped with everything as it is, as all the design, as all the plans stand. And then I have a certificate of appropriateness, which I think what they're referring to is the one that keeps the restaurant the same, right? So what am I being asked for here? Like, what plans do I, because in order for me to keep the restaurant the same, then I should not touch it. But that restaurant, it's not structurally sound. You understand?
I understand your question, and
I just want to clarify, the only certificate of occupancy issued under the city's historic preservation ordinance was issued in July of 2022.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what February things, if that's from the state, that's beyond the scope of what we
Okay.
as a city do.
I think Ms. Manning has testimony to add.
That's correct. The certificate of appropriateness we issued was in July of 2022. What
So
he's
let me first cut to the chase of what I hear the confusion may be is that we have the term certificate of appropriateness being used by two different jurisdictions for two different forms. The state issues in their processes certificate of appropriateness, but that has nothing to do with the city of St. Cloud's code of ordinances and your processes. Am I understanding that correctly?
correct, because he did go through the state for some type of designation from the state as well. But what he's talking to when it comes to the restaurant is he originally submitted in his certificate of appropriateness for the restaurant to have, and I don't know the terms, but to have the windows that stop probably about, chest height. Well, then he wants to now come back or came back and wanted to submit for the windows to be the full length. And the board at that time disapproved it. So the current plans that are submitted to building show the windows at full length. That is outside the
And
scope
that's
of
the
what.
2022 Certificate of Appropriateness?
Correct.
Okay.
And so that's outside the scope of what was approved. He needs to leave the restaurants, the windows where they're at chest height.
Or he has to get a new Certificate of Appropriateness?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, sir, you can come back up. Did you understand that? I did.
So I did as well. So part of this entire renovation for the building is in order to make the building actually function for all involved. The windows that are existing on that restaurant, if you're sitting.
So you're going, if you're about to tell me why the windows should be allowed to be changed, that's not something I can decide here. That's the historic board's role, not mine. I can't make that decision, but what you're hearing is the quickest path to moving forward is to reopen and extend the 2022 Certificate of Appropriateness, which means moving forward with the plan as it was in 2022. If you want a new Certificate of Appropriateness to change those windows, it sounds like, or if you want to change those windows, that's going to require a new Certificate of Appropriateness, which will extend the process for sure, also injects uncertainty because you may not get those windows approved, and if I heard right, they were already disapproved the first time. So this is running into what you want versus what Historic Board has said they'll allow.
Well, may I ask how many certificates of appropriateness have been issued for this project? Because it's been more than one.
Okay?
How many certificates of appropriateness have been issued for the project from 2019 to date?
I don't know if one was issued prior to 2022. I can find out. It'll just take me a moment. The most recent one was issued in July of 2022.
If I could access my table, my tablet, or my phone, I have all the records. So this restaurant has been approved as a certificate of appropriateness in different designs.
Right, but with the windows, was there an approval with the windows?
Yes,
Okay.
it was. It was in 2022. If I could access it, I could tell you the exact date. It was 3 months prior to the one that they're referring to. It was approved once. And that's what I'm fighting for. Why? Because I think that it will be detrimental to the building and to the restaurant in order for those windows to stay the same. It doesn't function as a restaurant in that type of design. And just because someone made a mistake 50, 60 years ago, it is my responsibility to make sure that this project gets the right tools in order to function and do its job later on. And I believe that this is the right thing to do for this building. And this is what took me so long to fight and get that approved once. So my answer back to you is that I will fight for those windows. And if the restaurant loses historic significance because we want to do that design, so be it at the end of the day. But that restaurant has been approved with different designs more than once.
Well, I know Ms. Manning went to look that up, but how many certificates of appropriateness? We'll get the answer to that, but I understand it's significant to you and what you want to do with the building.
Correct.
For what I have to do here, again, that's historic board work, not the work I have to do here. What we have here is a certificate of appropriateness that is expired and an inability to move forward with permitting until the certificate of appropriateness is renewed. And the quickest path to that is renewal of the 2022, but if he wants to fight for his windows, you know, I want to know how long it's going to take for that process, and so we'll wait for Ms. Manning to come back to answer that question.
I can tell
for
you,
me.
if they do want to start a new process to get a new certificate of appropriateness issue, it's going to take, as I said, the Historic Preservation Board meets regularly, so it's probably going to take at least 90 days to go through
That's why I
that
was saying it's
process.
3 months.
If that's the path that they want to move towards. You know, so that's what the issue we have. And I would also point out that even if there was a certificate of appropriateness issued, they have a 2-year lifespan, so that one would have expired also.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it was being offered as really mitigating to this case. It was more towards the hope that historic board will do what was approved before, if there was before. As long as we're in a holding pattern, can Fire, would you mind coming back up? is there anything that can be done to mitigate the risks in this building, prior to construction beginning, moving forward, permits being issued? Is there anything that could be done while all the permitting resolves?
The best thing would be to try to get the fire sprinkler system at least functioning. Obviously, during construction, it wouldn't be up to code because, there's no ceilings and walls. It would change over time as construction progresses, but having a functioning monitored sprinkler system in place would at least, since we've told our guys not to go inside to add a life safety hazard, a sprinkler system basically adds hose lines in place to fight an active fire to keep it at bay. I don't know how that would.
Yeah, that's my concern. My
look
concern is that
through.
if he submitted for that, for a suppression system that wasn't code compliant, we're just gonna have another rejected permit.
Yeah, it wouldn't be easy. It would be definitely a modified system as a placeholder until the building's constructed to the point to where the permanent sprinkler system could be added.
Okay. I don't have a good path through that, but we'll keep working on it. Once permits are issued and work recommences, the project is moving forward, what would make this structure any different than any other work-in-progress structure in the city? From a life safety, fire hazard risk assessment.
Most other construction projects have an end date, and
No, the permit is the end date. That's what I'm asking.
okay.
Why should I treat this one any differently than I would treat any other active permit situation?
Active permit situation? We're in the building a lot more for inspections throughout the construction process. Like I said, we haven't been in there for any permit-related inspections since 2021.
And I'm assuming it turns back into an active job site. So, compared to any other rehab project in the city, what would make this one, is there anything that would make this one different than another older building that is in the process of rehabilitation from a life safety fire hazard factor?
Nothing I could foresee that would keep it from being considered, other than making sure that construction progresses so that we can be in there for routine inspections for the progress.
Okay.
And other factors in the building would have to be shored up and safeguarded, such as the open elevator shaft, and we would have to make sure that there's no holes in the floor, which we have seen in the past, and there's a lot of construction factors that would probably have to be brought up to par for NFPA 241, which is fire safety regulations for active construction sites.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up, is it Mr. Mateos? Is that your last name or first name?
That's my first name.
Okay, what's your last name?
Hodo, H-O-D.
Hodo. Mr. Hodo?
Yes. Everything has, so even though the elevator.
You're going to tell me everything is safe
No,
inside?
yes, because I have.
That's what I'm struggling with, because we're not, the evidence isn't there yet, and that's actually where I'm about to go. So let me ask you to put a pin in that thought. If you need to come back to it, I'll certainly give you the opportunity. But let me try to work through this a little bit, because let me tell everybody my concerns, and it is a challenging case, but it's certainly one I think can get worked through. But there is a big, just black hole in the questions I'm able to ask and to get two-sided answers to, because I can ask the question and I'll get, sure, everything is safe inside. Well, and I don't doubt your sincerity or honesty, but different perspectives see things differently. I'm inclined to continue this case, to require, and it sounds like you already are open to this, so to accept the offer of the respondent to say, come in and talk about what are the safety issues. Because I would like to know what the interior of that building looks like. I would like to hear that, because I'm being asked to find that it's unsafe, and I see a condition from the outside that suggests to me, yes, it is unsafe. I think there is enough on the outside to find that it is unsafe. But in crafting what's the right way of fixing that, without knowing the condition of the inside, I certainly can't answer it. And I don't think fire or building who has had to leave, I don't think you guys are in a position to answer that either until you know what you're dealing with. And so if the city were to go in there and see holes in floors, see the kind of things that they've seen in the past that they're concerned about, and I were to hear that, here, I would share those concerns, and that would factor into how I would order this to be cured. But I don't have that evidence, and I think it's key evidence for this case.
Absolutely, and if I may, the holes that the fire marshal is relating to, they are through the subfloor, and they were originally from the shoring, because remember, we had to shore the existing structure while we were working on it, but those have all been patched. And the other hole was for the old sprinkler pipe that went through. There is no holes on the floors, and even the elevator shaft that's unfinished has a. And
this is why actually I was short-circuiting this line, because I'm sure you're going to tell me everything inside is safe. And again, I don't doubt your sincerity or honesty. It's just two different people can look at the same thing and see two different things, and I want the other set of eyes.
This is why I requested a site inspection.
Understood.
I requested that site inspection since October, and I was never given it. Thank you.
I think it's obviously a good idea that the city has not been able to get in that building because there haven't been any work done. There haven't been inspections called. The building obviously we didn't pursue any sort of inspection warrant to be able to address it, which would have been our next step. So I do think that is a initial step that would be beneficial towards trying to resolve this.
I'm finding it very difficult. Again, I can say from the outside, I can say, yeah, there's some things there that need to be cured, but it sounds like the real issues are inside. The reason why I'm being asked to, structure a plan for life safety sounds like it's more about the inside of the building than the outside, but I don't have any testimony except the respondent who tells me everything is fine.
Right. Well, yes, and I agree with that. I don't want to challenge any of his testimony to be able to do it.
Yeah,
right.
again, it's just different perspectives. I get that, and fire might go in there and the concerns may be reduced too. Which is the other thing is it might not be as bad as we feared.
Right, and I did just talk to the fire marshal and the fire chief who are here, and they would be they would like to go in the building because they want to address it to see what the real life safety issues are. Okay. So obviously they can be prepared if they have to deal with it in a hopefully an unfortunate situation. But however, we understand the special magistrate's desire to maybe continue. As we would ask that at least something be done with the ability to get this final permit pulled, or at least obtained. I do think that the respondent does need some motivation to be able to address that.
Ms. Manning is back, so now she can fill me in on what you found, but I also have some questions for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Magistrate. Yes, so the applicant was correct. He did have two certificate of appropriateness issued in 2022. One was issued in April, and I have it here, and I'm going to provide it to you for your records, that basically outlines everything that he can do, as well as the renderings of what was approved by the board. Well, his project was then brought back again in June, as he stated, because the significance of the actual restaurant itself. And on those renderings, it will show that he has the chest height windows, and that's what was approved by the board.
In the April approval, were the windows part of that consideration?
They were, and they were full length. However, when he brought it back at chest height. Yes, sir.
And you actually don't have to show me those. I'll accept the testimony because it's ancillary to this. It's more to help me understand what's going on. As I understand the respondent's position, though, he wants to try to get the full-length windows. And the April approval of those windows at least suggests that there is a possibility. It's not outside the realm of possibility for those to be approved. So he wants to go through the new certificate of appropriateness process. If he were to do that, how long would that take?
He would have to submit his application. It has to go for review. I'll say I want to say at least 60 days, and that's rushing it.
Mr. Manzares and I are both thinking probably closer to 90.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So if we obviously understand the seriousness of the situation and the building and the uniqueness of this, and it is a complex issue, and we agree with that. We would sort of implore the special magistrate, we need, from the city's perspective, from the community's perspective, some sort of milestone that has to be accomplished on this place, and we'd ask that before we leave today, something along those lines.
And I have something along those lines. Whether it makes anybody happy, I don't know, but I have something in mind.
And of course, as you know, we did ask for a significant amount of a fine. It's obviously within the discretion of the special magistrate, given the circumstances, to be able to address this. But this is a significant issue for the city as a whole and for the community. And that's why we did that.
Respondent? So you heard, if you're going to seek another certificate of appropriateness, you're probably at the earliest you're 60 days out, more likely 90 or more. And there's the possibility that it does not get approved.
And if it doesn't get approved, then the restaurant loses significance,
Okay.
historical significance.
That's not my decision to make. But
I am in understanding.
my focus is on the building.
So is mine.
How soon do you believe you can submit that certificate of appropriateness application?
I can submit it right away.
What is right away?
Today, tomorrow.
I suspect there's going to be enough information that it might not be something you can put together in 24 hours.
Okay. Within the week, within the next week. If Ms. Manning.
Yeah, let me ask Ms. Manning, do you think that's realistic, given what you know? Is it realistic for a new certificate of appropriateness to be submitted within a week?
I do believe he will be able to submit it within a week.
Okay.
And then we can go through the review process. I do want to state for the record, though, in reading his original approval in April, and it does say here that the Historic Preservation Board also approved staff to further coordinate with the state Historic Preservation Office regarding the request for the 2x2 windows. And it states that shutters, awnings, overhang, or balconies, with the exception of the overhang over the main entrances, are not approved. So I would, correct, but I would urge you to go back and look at this approval and understand that they disapproved those windows the first time. So it's quite likely they would disapprove them again.
Is it possible to submit, or is it possible in the process of the review, is it possible for him to submit an application for the full-length windows? And should the board react negatively to those and it be moving towards denial, to substitute in the original form of windows and move forward with that certificate of appropriateness application? Would it be possible to make that modification as the process moves on? Understand that I'm looking at this as a way of getting to permit so he can begin fixing the building as fast as possible.
Correct. So my suggestion would be that he go ahead and file for the extension for what he currently has approved, so that way he can start working toward his permit. We can approve his permit with what he currently has approved, and he can still go through the certificate of appropriateness process to make those changes. Should the board approve those changes, then he would just modify his permit.
That seems to me to be a very realistic and good compromise. Thank you. Did you understand that?
I think so, but
So
please
you
elaborate.
what zoning is saying is you could reopen and extend the most recent 2022 permit, which was the original shape of windows, get that certificate of appropriateness issued, get your permits issued, begin working again, get the work moving forward at the same time as you are submitting your new certificate of appropriateness for what you want to change that window length. That kills two birds with two stones maybe, because you have to do two things, but it gets the city to a place where work is moving forward, everyone can take a deep breath because work has started again and we don't have to worry about the building anymore. We can all worry about which windows end up being, but you also have a path forward on that. You are not locked in to the original certificate of appropriateness because you can ask for that new one that would amend that aspect of it, but it keeps you from being held up while you're waiting to see if the preferred windows are approved.
Sounds like a good compromise.
Okay.
I guess what has me puzzled is that back in 22, the structural.
This is not these are not questions I can answer. This
Okay.
is the historic preservation part, and that is outside of what's in my purview.
I understand.
I'm just looking at the safety of that building and trying to get us back to work moving forward.
Yes, and this is the reason why we're here. It's like I lack an understanding of what really is making that building unsafe and what really is making that building at risk.
And so
And how can I address that?
we're going to address that. Yes, sir.
And I understand where we're heading, and hopefully we're getting this something that can be met in accordance with what we've presented. But I do think, for purposes of everybody's understanding, the last statement by Mr. Hoda is exactly the issue that the city has with this. There appears to be a lack of understanding about compliance with state codes, state building codes, and the desires for this building, which are basically reach the unrealistic range. That's the problem that the city has had to deal with this project since its inception, is the fact that they refuse and categorically have refused to follow them moving forward with the building code because they want to do some things that are beyond the scope of the code and all that. Our office, the city's building department, the planning department, historic preservation can only comply with the codes that they have jurisdiction over. And so I think that's part of it, this issue of the lack of, and this is why the city is bringing this back and was seeking for a significant fine in this case, because we do think the respondent needs to have a message delivered to him that this project needs to move forward and can't drag on any longer.
Come on up.
I think we're talking about two different things because
You're not. Let me tell you from the city's perspective, because I work for other cities.
Okay.
And from a city's perspective, you seem to be a very creative person, just as you present.
you have to do with this kind of project.
I
You
don't
have
doubt
to
it.
be, because it's existing.
I
and-
don't doubt it. But safety is paramount. Progress moving forward, getting from project start to project completion is paramount. And the creativity cannot take precedence over the practicality. And that's what was just expressed to me, is there's some challenges that really, really want this, but code says you have to do this. But I really, really want this. And I've heard it here today. There has to be deference given to building code. Florida building code trumps everything.
Sure,
Fire protection code trumps everything else.
sure.
City code then. Everything has to be done according to code. It is your job to make yourself understanding of those codes.
And-
it is not the city's job to teach you or educate you. It is, I cannot remember his name. He was a Seminole County judge. Judge Sloop is who it was. Whenever he had a pro se respondent or party in his courtroom, if that party would say, "But Judge, I'm not a lawyer," Judge Sloop would say, in his style, "Yes, you are. Yes, you do. No, Your Honor, I don't have a lawyer." "Yes, you do. You chose to be pro se. You are your own lawyer. I expect the same level of competence from you as I expect from those gentlemen in ties in the back of the room." That's what I'm telling you now. If you are going to manage this project, I expect the same level of competence from you as a general contractor would have, even though you are not a general contractor, because it is your job as project manager to understand the codes that you are subject to.
I do, and I don't think that
But
we're
you
in
just
any-
told me there's confusion.
Well, there is confusion.
And you
because
just told me you don't
we're-
understand.
No. I wasn't in agreement with the statement. Why? Because I don't think that we're not in compliance with the code. On the contrary, we've been very code compliant on all aspects of this project and have actually determined to be so that it's right for the project. So that statement is really invalid from my perspective, and we're talking about change to a structure that we're actually bringing back from being completely demolished
I understand,
to life,
but
to which
you-
we're fighting for rights in order to make it right so that it does function correctly. I mean, isn't that within our rights?
You are fighting for the building, I understand that.
Yes, so the design is code compliant. All of the aspects of the design are
The
code
design
compliant.
is not code compliant until you have that certificate of appropriateness, and
Alright.
that's what we're held up on.
Exactly, but it was the same design back in '22. So it was the same design for April '22, and it was the same design for July of '22.
But not your most recent 2022. The windows have changed. The windows are the windows of the sticky wicket. And so
but it
I
was the
want to
same in
give a path. I
2021.
want to work with you to give a path there.
Please.
But I also need you to work with me, which is why I'm saying these things to you. I don't want to hear if we ever, and we will, because that's where we're going. We're moving towards at least one more hearing. I do not want to hear, well, I didn't understand or I was confused. I don't want to hear any of those things because it's your responsibility to make yourself understanding.
Sure.
If you're going to manage the project, you have to understand.
Absolutely. So-
You have to be the lead. Do not wait for the city to tell you what to do.
And I'm full agreement in that. My lack of understanding what is making the building unsafe, from outside, from inside, from entry point of
And-
life safety, and from inside of what can I
That's
do
a good segue
to satisfy that.
for where I'm headed today. Yes, sir.
I just want to point a couple. First of all, I think it needs to be clarified. The building doesn't meet the code until a certificate of occupancy is, the compliance is issued. And that's been the part of the issue in the deal with it all. I understand that we're reaching some sort of compromise. The city's also willing to try to work on something to do this. As we think what would go somewhat a long way to at least showing that there is some dedication is if the permit could be issued as quickly as possible, and then some work would be done that we could sign off on, most particularly some of the exterior work on the building, so that the building could at least look like it's under construction, be able to do that. There's plywood on the boarding of the windows. We've been promised that the windows would be replaced for coming on a year now. The promise is in place, and maybe the respondent could get that done fairly quickly, and we could at least have some showing that they're trying to cooperate with us.
Okay. So you heard that kind of olive branch, I think it was a little bit. How quickly could you, once permits are issued or are reissued, how quickly could window installation begin in that building?
So windows have to be manufactured for the building. We have all ordered the windows for the dormer. They have been sitting in the site. We couldn't do them because the roof just didn't.
Are the windows in or not? You have windows, or for the dormer? You have the dormer windows. The lower windows are not in production yet.
Correct, but they can be ordered and be in production, and then the moment.
What's that production? What's the length of that production process?
I would have to double check. The last time
What do you
that
think it is?
last time that I did check, it was 3 months.
Okay.
It
But you can get that order in as soon as,
Yes.
really, you don't even have to wait on permits to get that order in. How quickly could you have the order in for the windows?
I would have to double check with the owner, but I'm thinking by the end of the month.
But before this time next month?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else from anybody?
No, sir.
All right, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to enter a partial ruling today and continue other matters as we've kind of discussed in the course. I do find that just from the exterior, the length of time this has been an inactive project, I do find there's sufficient evidence to find that it is dangerous risk of fire collapsing, IPMC 111.1.5. The general IPMC that leads into all of those is 111.1.5, dangerous structures or premises. I am not finding the unsecured structure, which is 111.1.5, sub 7, vacant structure unsecured. This is the attractive nuisance to children who might play in the building or structure. I do not find that it is currently in an unsecured state. It may have been in the past, but all the evidence I heard or testimony I heard today was that there are no breaches in that today. So I am not finding that the 111.1.5 sub 7 exists as the building sits today. I do find that 111.1.5, dangerous risk of fire collapse, 111.1.5, dangerous fire resistant. The responsibility 301.2, it's not really a violation section. So really the three violations that I'm finding are 111.1.53 globally And then within that, 111.158, dangerous risk of fire, 111.1.510, dangerous fire resistant. The cure to that for today, and again, I am continuing the case so that we can revisit and deal with the cure in more detail once the city has been allowed to see the condition of the interior of the building, but from an exterior perspective, by February 6th, which gives you 2 full weeks after this week, this week then plus 2, to have the application for extension of the July 2022 Certificate of Appropriateness in. That will be submitted by February 6th. I'm not going to enter anything in my order about the new certificate of appropriateness that you want to seek. You are free to seek that. But that is, you can do that with that application afterwards. You can do that once the work is started. I just want this to move, to get permits issued and work to commence again. And the fastest route to that is to get that original certificate of appropriateness reopened back up, which then gives you time to work on if you want to change or get a new certificate of appropriateness for the different windows in the restaurant. So I'm not foreclosing that. I'm just not ordering you to do it because that's, again, ancillary to what we're dealing with here. If you will get the application in to renew or to extend the July 2022 certificate of appropriateness, that at least gets you able to move your permits forward. Do you understand? I'm not, no more debate. I'm not, just do you understand? Not do you like it? Do you understand? Yes. Okay. Also, between now and the next hearing, I want you to, I'm going to this continuance, we will have the city will renotice, but we'll be back here, our next hearing date of February 18th. So I'm going to continue the conversation regarding cure of the condition until the parties can present additional evidence as to the condition of the interior of the structure at the February 18th hearing. And I will supplement my order at that time as to what needs to happen beyond what I'm ordering to happen right now. But what I want to happen, and I will include this in the order, between now and that hearing, when you're here at that next hearing, I want you to be able to testify to me, yes, we have ordered the windows, at least for the ground floor. Because once those are ordered, once they come in, you can get them in, and you can solve that aesthetic problem.
May I
Yes,
make
sir.
a comment? I would like to, the thing is that I would like to order all the windows
I understand
and
what
all
you'd
the
like
doors.
to do.
Because
I understand what you would like to do, but this is not about what you would like to do. This is about what needs to happen.
I understand.
And if you want to order all of the windows, you certainly can.
Including the restaurant as it.
I am not foreclosing you from ordering all the windows. What I'm saying is the ground floor windows, ordered before I see you next time. And if that means ordering all the windows, so be it. But I want the ground floor windows because I want to be able to see that. If I see it, when I see a case that's had boarded windows for more than 6 months,
Yes.
I'm more often than not going to find a violation for the simple fact that those windows have been boarded for more than 6 months because those windows are supposed to be functioning. Your windows have been boarded for a very long time now.
I will order the windows.
All I'm asking.
The ground floor also includes the restaurant. So this certificate of appropriateness,
I will accept the restaurant windows from that. So all windows except for the restaurant windows because I understand you have some uncertainty there until you've gotten to go through your certificate of appropriateness process.
Thank you. And in that regard, I will order the windows of the main building for the second and third floor. So basically, as an exchange, I'll order all of the windows, all the floors of the main building, and leave the restaurant and the additions out back until the certificate of appropriateness gets resolved. Is that?
Are the other outbuildings also, are those windows that you're changing or are seeking to change in the certificate of appropriateness?
So the entire thing has been unified to one design.
I'm just, so,
Yes.
Okay.
But the buildings in the back were never part of any historic preservation value. It was just the restaurant that
I see.
was-
So, but until you know what you're doing with the restaurant,
Yes,
you will
exactly.
not know what windows you're
Exactly.
putting
So
in
I
those
would
buildings.
rather not order them right now.
So would the outbuildings be an appropriate description of those? What they're calling the buildings outside? Yes? Okay. So the outbuildings and the restaurant is how I'm referring to those. But the main building windows, all main building windows will be ordered before February 18th.
Correct.
Okay. So for now, that is what my order is. Yes, sir.
Can we ask for one thing? We'd like to, if you put in the order, at least a requirement that the respondent allow the fire department and the building official in the building to.
That's a given. That's my jumping off spot. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that is
Okay.
my expectation, is that between now and February 18th, the city will have the opportunity to inspect the interior of that building, because the February 18th hearing is so everybody can come back here and present to me what is the condition of the inside of the building.
We would just request that you put that in your order.
It will be. It will be. Yes, sir.
And the fire, I'm sorry, the staff just asked if we would like to do that inspection at least 2 weeks before the next hearing.
Are there any problems with that?
I would like to do the inspection as soon as possible.
So the inspection to occur prior to,
Can we do it next week?
So I'm not
that's
working-
between you and them. I'm just giving you a deadline. Prior to February 5th, 2026,
thank
the
you.
inspection to occur.
Thank you.
I will speak in more detail on potential fines if my order is not complied with next time. But if these things that you've agreed to do today, or, that you've agreed today to do before I see you again, one, to get that application for certificate of appropriateness in by February 6th, and to have the inspection performed by February 18th, I'm sorry, February 5th. Actually, I'm just going to tie those to the same date. It's easier for everybody. February 6th for the inspection, as well as to have the certificate of appropriateness extension application submitted. If those things don't occur, I will consider imposition of fines up to the statutory maximum. So I will consider it, but I don't have any expectation that you're not going to follow through on the things that you've told me. And then if we need to, we will have a deeper conversation about that when we get into the more detailed cure after there's some more evidence that can be presented to me on the interior of the building. Yes, sir.
May I, for the next meeting, would you like me to supply you pictures and videos of the interior of the building? Or would you like to have a visit yourself?
I do not want to have a visit myself, because I am not an expert, and that complicates everything for hearing process. I'm sure the city will take pictures of anything they're concerned about. If you would like to take pictures of anything or videos, you are more than welcome to. I would be happy to view it, but just as this process works, if the city sees something that they are concerned about and they think is a violation, they are going to document that, take a picture of it, and show it to me. So I expect that if you were not to take any pictures or any video, that anything that they're alleging is a violation, that is. I mean, that there will be pictures of that.
So I have a question. If we schedule the inspection prior to February 6th, let's say we do it before February 6th, and the next meeting we have is February 18th, anything that they make a list of for me to fix, is it possible for me to fix them prior to the meeting?
By all means, as long as it doesn't require a
So I'm
permit.
allowed to do
As
it.
long as it does not require a permit.
Okay, and then how do we determine that?
That would be, is there,
I mean, I don't think there's anything there that needs. Okay.
So
yeah,
this-
but that would, all I can tell you is to interface closely with the building department.
Yeah, we would ask that his general contractor and the project's general contractor and whoever architect have direct contact with the city staff so that they can explain all this stuff to them. Again, Mr. Hoda is not a general contractor, he's not an architect, and we need to be directly
And
with the
to that,
professionals.
would it be possible to, when this inspection gets scheduled, would it be possible for you to coordinate and have your general contractor there for that? Because I think that would be very helpful. Is there any merit to having the architect there from the city's perspective? Would it be helpful to have the architect there? Is it possible it would be helpful to have the architect there?
Well, that's up to the.
I understand, but from the city's, is it possible that, if the city would like to have the architect there, I
Yes.
would ask you to, if you could have the architect there, please have the architect
We
there.
want to make sure that we are addressing the issues with the professionals that will be the ones designing the cure.
it just cuts down on the go-between. And so, the building experts can talk to building experts without having to be translated through a layperson, and I find myself in that middle often also, so I understand the predicament. And so if they're able to be there, certainly it'd be helpful for you to have them there. Is there anything else on this case that anybody needs at this point?
No, sir.
I will hold on administrative costs until the next hearing.
Thank you.
Before you call the next case, let me get my notes in order. Okay, thank you.
Case number 2025-1076, Rachel Ruffin, owner, location of violation 501 Kentucky Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida.
So the next case we're going to hear was just called in by the clerk, Officer Alex, is this your case? Mark, she'll present on this case. I'll just give you a little heads up. This is a case that you might recall you heard at a prior hearing with regard to other violations on the property, an accessory structure that was being used, and I believe a deck that was done without a permit. There is some additional unpermitted work on the premises, and that's what this case is about.
So this is not the same situation I heard before, but this is new work that's been done, or just additional work that was discovered?
Additional work that was discovered as part of the process.
Good afternoon. Alex Miller, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of St. Cloud. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail posted at the property and City Hall, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, affidavit of posting, evidence of mailing, copy of the code sections in violation, a copy of the deed to the property, a copy of the cost incurred if the magistrate finds this respondent in violation in the amount of $308.03, and the respondent is here and was provided with copies of the case. On November 26, 2025, a statement of violation and a statement of hearing was sent by certified mail to the owner, posted the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was created, and one picture of the posting was taken. This case is to show the evidence that the accessory structure was converted into an apartment by the current owner after purchasing the property in 2019. Pictures were obtained from the property appraiser aerial bird's eye imagery, which showed that the property was in the same condition in February 2020, and the images also indicate that the remodeling of the accessory structure occur sometimes after February 2020, and to show two pictures. And I have provided with bigger pictures on the folder for you to see, because this kind of is not quite clear on the beginning of the folder.
Tell me what I'm looking at here.
This picture is shown right here that on on January 2020 from the bird's eye view from the property appraisers. You can see the accessory structure did not have the sliding door.
Where do I see that?
It's on the picture that I show you. I'm sorry, it's the same picture, but you can see it better on the paper.
Where on the structure am I looking to see a
The arrow indicating that's the accessory structure on 2020 when Ms. Ruffin purchased the property after 2019.
Can you approach?
Yes.
What is it you want me to see?
So this is the accessory structure. You can see
Oh, okay.
there was no sliding door when February.
I see. Okay, so what was just pointed out to me was on the bottom of the structure there, the bottom right. You're showing me in this photograph, there's a sliding door in this photograph.
It is not there, but you can see
There's not what is that in the bottom right corner?
that is just the accessory structure, and there's no sliding door at that time on 2020.
Okay.
And then on the next picture, you can see that there is on December, when the picture was taken from the aerial bird side on December 2022, that now there is a sliding door installed on the accessory structure.
Okay, I actually see a couple of changes between those two photographs. I see it looks like a window was removed,
Correct.
and then the sliding door was put where that window was, and then a little bit to the right of it, it looks
Yes, sir.
like. Okay.
And this is a picture that I took back in 11/12/2025. In February 2023, the owner was issued a notice of violation for the work performed on the accessory structure without a permit and for allowing individuals to reside in the unit. On March 17, 2023, Officer Neal and I met with the owner. She stated that she had not performed any work on the structure and that her father had only been sleeping there while visiting. She further stated that the accessory structure already had all the improvements completed when she purchased the property. She advised that she would not conduct any additional work, and the case was subsequently closed as notified, and 3 photos were taken. This is the interior of the property in 2023.
Is this work that you're saying is that the city is alleging was not permitted?
Correct.
Didn't have permits?
Correct. That's a new,
The eaves,
correct. Just on that side.
same as this
Yes,
showing
sir.
the eaves? Okay.
Yes, sir. And again, the owner submitted a permit application in January 2024 to try to get this legal, but she never obtained the permit or completed the process to obtain the required permits. On January 15, a reinspection was conducted, and it was verified that no permit had been issued for the residential repairs and alteration, including window, door replacement, electrical work, plumbing, and miscellaneous improvements. The property remains in violation. I also verified that the owner is attempting to sell the property and advertising the accessory structure as a mother-in-law suite, despite there not being permit on record for the structure. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of allowing repairs and alterations to be performed and not correcting the violation by the time specified. The city recommends that the respondent be granted until January 30th, 2026 to obtain the required permits for the conversion of this accessory structure into an apartment or to remove all the unpermitted work. If compliance is not achieved by the date, a fine in the amount of $250 per day should be assessed until full compliance is met. And the city will also request that the cost incurred in bringing this case before the magistrate in the amount of $308.03 to be paid within 7 days of the written order by the special magistrate. And this concludes my presentation.
Don't go far, I may have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I understand what permits it is the city is alleging are required, because as I read the evidence packet, it looks like this is work without building permits, but in your request relief, you referenced a permit to allow back to the accessory dwelling unit permit, but is an accessory, whether there's a screen door and new eaves, is that somehow tied to the accessory dwelling unit in a way that I'm not understanding, or is this just a building permit issue?
There's just a building permit.
Okay.
So this is the, back in November, presented the case, but she was.
I remember, I just wanted to make sure I was
Yes, sir.
understanding. So this is building permits we're
Yes, sir.
talking about. So it doesn't have to be approved as an accessory dwelling unit, they just have to get building
Correct.
permits for the work that was done.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, I understand, thank you. Ms. Ruffing?
Yes, sir. Rachel Ruffing, owner of 501 Kentucky. We've met before. I wanted to be on record that I had filed a formal complaint against Code Officer Alex Miller this morning with her supervisor, Christopher L. Dawn, for harassment because she has been harassing me for years. I went through this packet here, and I looked at some of her pictures, which was her evidence.
First of all, let's start with the one I have a question about.
Yes, sir.
So you're welcome to approach and look at the blown-up version, but between 2022 and 2023, I definitely see a change in that structure.
She also provided a deed.
I just want to know, was there a change made to that structure? That's the question I'm asking you right now.
No, sir. So what I'm telling you is I didn't even own the property until
I
November.
understand that you were given it to by your uncle, I think, right?
My father.
Your father. But work still has to have permits regardless of whether or not we bought it after the work was done, or were given it after the work was done. Was there a change made to that structure between 2022 and 2023?
Not as far as I know, but I know that she's going to present more evidence because I
I'm
got some more
looking at a
information.
picture from the property appraiser where I see in one photograph.
In January of 2020. I didn't buy this property until November.
I'm not asking you if you did it. I'm asking you, was there a change?
I wouldn't know because I didn't get it until November.
Do you disagree with these photos?
Yes.
What do you disagree with in the photos?
There was also a metal shed that was right in front of that door, which this picture is not really very clear, but you can go to the property appraiser site and see that there was a metal shed that was there.
But I see
So
a
maybe that's
window.
why she
I see
couldn't
a
see
window
it.
in one picture and a screen door in another. Do you disagree that there's a window in one picture and a screen door in the other?
Yes, because that is not a window.
Okay, I'm looking at January 2022, January 2020, February 2020.
Yes.
You may approach.
It's really not that legible, honestly. There are no windows.
Okay. It's not a window. Is the thing in that photograph the same as the photograph in December 2022, January 2023?
From the aerial view, they are different, yes. But they're not very clear pictures.
They're
you
clear
can't-
enough that I can see that's a change. And if you're going to play games with me, I'm not going to be patient with you.
I'm not playing games.
You are.
I'm not. I cannot tell what this is, to be honest with you. And like I told you, there was a metal shed there too. So you know what? I didn't get this property until November, which was 11 months later than this picture was taken. And from what I know, this is what the property looks like. And yes, I am selling the home. And I was very clear to follow your instructions, which you said last
people
time,
know.
which was to put the code enforcement violations on there, and which I did.
And that's not part of it today, but I'm trying to understand if there were changes made to this property that did not have permits. And I'm not saying you did the work, but they're saying there was work done that did not have permits. And I'm seeing work was done. I'm seeing fresh wood and eaves. Do you disagree that that shows what it looks like?
That building has been there since 1985.
Okay, but do you disagree that what I see as fresh wood in those photographs, do you disagree that that's fresh wood?
I really don't know the difference between the two. I'm not a carpenter. I didn't do it.
Okay.
It's
So
been
can
there
you
since
testify to
1985.
me that there has been that there has been no unpermitted work done on the property?
What I can testify to is that I am in the middle of getting an attorney. I'm retaining an attorney, and he has advised me not to answer any questions today at this hearing. What I did is just come to bring the evidence here and speak with you on my behalf.
Okay. Then if you're not able to testify, though, I only have testimony from one side. And that side has presented to me evidence, competent substantial evidence, that there is a violation for work done without permits on the property.
And I don't know how you can make that determination by looking at this one simple picture that she posed from a time before I even owned the home.
But I can see that the two pictures do not match. I'm not saying you did the work, but I'm saying as the owner, you are responsible for making sure that all the work on your property is permitted.
It's understandable, but there was also a metal shed there. So is that a shed that's in front of that, that's blocking the view so you can't see what's there? Or is it something else?
What's there has gotten bigger, not smaller.
But if there was something in front of it, then it would be, hidden. The metal shed was removed after the hurricane.
There is a clear change in this property. Do you have any further testimony you'd like to offer?
Once again, I filed a formal complaint against Code Enforcement Officer Alex Miller for harassment for the past 2 years. I didn't own the home per this deed until November 21st of 2020. This picture was taken in January. I wouldn't know about anything that was done with it. My home is on the market. I did exactly what you said to put in here about code violations for the new buyer. And I don't know if there's anything else that I need to reference, but let me take a look here. She said here too, she had follow-up inspections on the 7th and the 15th. She didn't contact me, she didn't inspect anything unless she just came by my house. She's been trespassing.
You can perform an inspection from the sidewalk.
That's all I have for today.
Based on the evidence testimony presented, I find in favor of the city. I find there has been work done on this property without permits. I'm not finding that the current owner did it, but I am finding that that work has to be permitted. Specifically, it is the change in that looks like front facade of the accessory building since it faces the main structure. So you have north-south, I do not. But looking at the evidence presented, it is the forward-facing facade that changed from what looks like a window to clearly an expansion into a screen door. The permits for that screen door would need to be submitted by February, I'm gonna move to February 6th, consistent with the last case.
Okay.
Also find that there has been work done on the eaves. The condition of the interior, are you going to tell me that that's the same as it was when you bought it?
What I'm going to explain is that she's got this picture that says 2023 and it's 2026. So this is a 3-year-old, door that's been there, and then now all of a sudden it's an issue, and I just don't really know what I'm supposed to do.
Get permits for it.
How can I get a permit for it when my house is on the market?
Do you want to?
You can get a permit when your house
Yeah,
is
no,
on the
there's.
No, you can't, because there's a document that you have to sign that says that if you,
Owner-builder, you can't get an owner-builder permit while your house is on the market.
well, how am I supposed to pay for a general contractor? I called one. It was $5,000 for have him come out to do anything with it once I got this notice in the mail.
Inability to
I-
pay for a general contractor is not an excuse for allowing a code violation to continue.
So a 3-year-old code violation that is just now becoming a problem, you want me to rip the door out?
I want you to either get permits or remove the work that was done without permits, yes.
And Mr. Smith,
And
there was testimony offered about the interior work, specifically the electrical work that was done, and you were showing some evidence of that too.
And that's why, that was my question. The interior work, are you going to tell me that the condition of the interior of the structure is as it was when you took possession of the property?
I am just going to take the advice of my attorney and not have any more testimony today, sir. Thank you.
So are you able to tell me that you did not have that work performed?
Like I said, I'm just not going to have any more testimony today until I have my attorney present.
Okay. Well, then absent testimony that you did not have, that there has not been new work done on the interior, I am going to find that the work on the inside appears to be new construction, and the city has testified that there is no permits for that construction. So I also order that any of that construction will have to have permits submitted for it also.
I'd like to see the evidence, please.
And I just asked you, can you tell me that that is not new work? And you said you
Can
cannot
you tell me
testify.
how that picture was obtained and if it's actually my property?
Ms. Miller? Yes, sir. To the microphone, please.
Back in 2023, Officer Neal and I went to the property because Ms. Ruffin called to have an inspection or a meet inside the shed that was converted into the mother-in-law suite that she's advertising online. And Officer Neal can also testify that me and her went together to the property inside and took the picture while in the inspection.
So it is your testimony that this was a photograph of the interior of the subject property,
Yes,
and you were inside the subject property with the permission of the owner?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely not. I have never given them any permission to be on my property whatsoever. It is clear in my complaint that I've told you that she has trespassed, and now this is considered breaking and entering, if that is a picture of my property. Never once have I ever given her any permission to be at my home. And I would like to see the information that she provided that says there was anything that I was given in 2023 about this.
I will ask you again, did you perform interior work to that structure?
Like I said, I'm not answering any questions
So
today.
you
I'm
will
just
tell
giving
me testimony when you want me to hear something, but you will not answer my questions.
Per the advice of my attorney.
And you're free to take that advice, but it is going to end up in a ruling against you today.
I'm sorry about that.
I find that there's substantial evidence there have been interior alterations performed without permits. I will also order those to be included in that. So we have eaves, the door, and the interior that appears to be work performed without permits. My order is that permits for that work be submitted by February 6, 2026. Or theoretically, you could remove the work, but I think that probably would be more work for you, and the getting it permitted is the easiest path. Yes, ma'am.
How do I go about getting it permitted when I cannot pull the permit?
You will have to hire a general contractor or take the house off the market.
But my house is going into foreclosure, so I have to sell it.
I cannot help the financial problems. My job is to enforce the code. And your structure, based on the evidence that's been presented, is in violation of code.
Can you please explain the interior violations that need to be repaired? Because right now you've got
All
me
I
getting
see
eaves
is a
and door.
lot of new work on the inside, and you not telling me, refusing to testify about that work. So I cannot tell you anything about it because you have the most knowledge about it and are refusing to testify.
Well, I'd like to know what I'm supposed to do
Get a
before February
permit.
6th.
Get a permit.
So I can leave it exactly how it is and just file for a permit and have them come out and do an inspection.
You have to obtain the permit. You can't just file for a permit, but obtain the permit. But I'm going to order you to submit for that permit by February 6th.
And which permit is that?
It's a building permit for the work that's been done without building permits. You can work with the building department and they can help you, or they can work with your contractor to help you determine what needs to be included in that. But the work I'm seeing is eave work, door work, and it looks like an entirely reframed interior. Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to say that Ms. Ruffin has a permit application that she submitted in 2024 for the interior remodel and everything for the structure, but the permit has since been abandoned, so that's the application that still exists in the system.
So are you saying it could be renewed?
That is a question for the building
building
department,
department.
sir.
So-
Yes, sir.
My order,
I would like to say that it was Alex Miller who made me apply for that permit. I had no intention of even doing that because everything was just the way that it was. She kept coming to my house and
this
told me that I
case
had
is
to
about
apply for
work being
it.
performed at the structure that did not have building permits pursuant to the Florida Building Code. That's what this case is about. And you have not given me evidence to rebut what has been presented to me. To say that, no, that's not new work, no, that pre-existed,
How am
no,
I
there were
supposed to
permits for
rebuttal
that
it?
work. If you did not, if it was work done without permits, you can't. And then you can be honest and say, you know what, this was work done without permits.
Well, you know, just because I put floors in or paint doesn't mean that I'm doing
Paint,
anything
no,
that's
floors,
illegal.
yes. It's a property owner's responsibility to know when I need a permit and when I don't.
But putting down new flooring doesn't require a permit.
If you're doing subfloors, it will.
It didn't require subfloors.
Okay, I'm seeing framing. We're not talking about flooring here. Can you explain the framing to me?
I cannot, because I don't know when those pictures were obtained. She says they were done in 2023. I have no
But it's
proof
your
or anything
property.
that she has done. Is
Forget
it mine or
the
is it
evidence.
somebody else's?
Forget the evidence.
How did she obtain those
Did you
photos?
have work done
Did she
in
go
that
into my home
structure?
illegally? Did she trespass? Like,
Did you have work done in that structure?
I've done some minor repairs to it to make it a studio for
Why
me.
am I seeing new framing in that structure?
It's been there.
Since when?
Before I owned it.
Right, since when? When was it put in?
I don't
Was
have
it
a
put in
date,
by your
sir.
father? Were there permits obtained when that work was done?
I wouldn't know.
Do you have any reason to rebut or any evidence to rebut the city's evidence that they presented that there are no permits for that work?
What I would like to say is if she obtained those pictures, I just don't know how she obtained them and when she obtained them, and if she was on my property trespassing and illegal.
Her testimony is that she was on your property with your permission.
I never have given permission for either one of those people to be at my home. Several times I've asked her to leave. I've caught her sneaking around, taking pictures. I've asked her several times, and I've even filed a formal complaint about it today to her supervisor.
Do you have anything else to add?
I would like to see the notice that she allegedly provided me in 2023 when her and Pam came to my home and I allowed them onto my property.
You don't provide notice for an inspection when you've been invited.
Well, I wasn't inviting them, and I didn't ask for them to do any inspection. What reason would I
Is it your
have?
testimony that they broke into that structure?
I believe that is what I'm alluding to,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, did you break into that structure?
No, sir.
Thank you.
And
I do not find the respondent's evidence or testimony credible. The respondent is clearly playing games in this proceeding, and I do not appreciate it.
I'm not playing games. I'm bipolar, okay? That's just how I am.
You can be forthright with me.
I am being forthright. I was very clear with you that my father bought the house for me. I didn't obtain it until November 2020, which is after the picture that she had, so I have no knowledge of what's going on. I don't know where she got these pictures from. I've never
Can I get you to
invited
make
her
your
to my house.
statements into the microphone, please? Work without permits, just so you understand, work without permits are probably the most frequent code enforcement case in any jurisdiction. It is rarely a finger-pointing, fault-assigning issue. It is a simple fact of, hey, work was done, there were no permits obtained for it. Florida, the state of Florida, has adopted a Florida building code that has rules for how things get constructed so that it is safe for everybody involved, and cities will enforce that to the T because it involves safety. It is not about you're a bad person, you did something wrong. It is simply, let's get it right. And my frustration with you is every time that I simply try to engage and let's understand what's going on and why it's important to cure, I feel like you're obfuscating. You are not being helpful in this process.
I'm trying to be helpful. The thing is I just don't really understand why all this is going on and why I'm having to deal with it.
Do you understand why all construction work that gets done in the state of Florida has to have a building permit?
Yes, I've read it.
Do you
But
understand that this
putting-
work did not?
Putting down flooring in
We're not talking about flooring.
suite?
Nobody has said anything to me about flooring today.
Okay, well, maybe that's what I did. I put some floors in there. That's about it. But these pictures that she's taken, I'm curious about where she got them, when she obtained them, and how she obtained them, and why she's saying that it was my property. Like I told you, I was given the home from my father, and it's in the state that it's in.
Right, and it appears that state has unpermitted work in it.
And now it's my responsibility to
That's
cure
right,
it. I
as the
understand.
property owner, it is your responsibility to cure. That's correct.
Yeah, but the thing is I have no money because I'm unemployed. So I really can't hire anybody to do the work for me. And then on this little piece of paper, when I go to do an owner permit myself, it
You
tells me
cannot
that I
because
can't
you
sell
have the
my,
property in-
I can't sell my house for 1 year, but the house is going into foreclosure, so I have to sell it. So I'm kind of in a trick sack here. And that's why I was looking for maybe some more time to have a real estate attorney present with me, and maybe some more time to find employment or any type of money, tax return, something to be able to cure.
How much
The
time do you
issues.
think you need to get permits in hand?
Well, I filed my tax return, and they said I wouldn't get it until March 2nd. So once I get that, then I'd have to come down here and file the
You have
permits
to
or hire a contractor.
You're going to have to hire a contractor if that house is going to be on the market.
Right, so I'm gonna have to hire somebody to do it. And I really don't know what I'm asking them to do, to be honest, with tear everything out. How can they obtain a permit? What are they supposed to do?
And that is the challenge, because nobody in this room, I think, can testify to what was the condition prior to that work being done. But there has clearly been work being done. So the simplest path for that contractor to work forward with would be to get a permit for what has been done.
And so from what my understanding is that he or she would have to get something for eaves, even though it's been there for eons, and
3
then
years.
a door.
And the interior work. Unless you can tell me that that work was permitted, and because the city is saying there is no permits for that interior modification.
But I'd like you to be just a little bit more specific about what the interior modification is, because I'm allowed
The
to put.
framing, everything that's new on the interior of that, the framing, the construction work. Yes, you can put new floor coverings down. You cannot build a new skeleton of a house, which is what's been done in that house.
Mr. Smith, may I just,
Yes, sir.
we're happy to revise the city's recommendation regarding compliance. I think we were originally talking about February 6th. We go to April.
That's further than I was gonna push it. I appreciate
I
that.
mean,
So,
just to give her, if she's looking at a situation where she needs to get additional funds and banking on her tax refund to be able to do that, middle of April would be fine with us.
so April 15th,
Yes.
tax day? Ms. Ruffing, how does that look for you as to giving you some time?
I appreciate that, thank you.
Does that seem like a workable amount of time for you to get done what you need to get done on your end?
I'm going to have to make it work, so yes, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from you, Ms. Ruffing, before I rule?
No, I'm just trying to understand what type of permits I have to get, so just one building permit for the entire thing and have somebody come out and do the.
It will be, you likely, this is gonna be something you're gonna have to work with the building permit on and a contractor. Having a contractor will be a huge benefit to you once you're able to hire one. But whether it's one permit or multiple, that will be a decision that's made in that process. What I'm telling you is you have to have permits.
Okay, and so let's just say I get an offer on my house and I accept it. I've made it clear in the listing that the new buyer would have to take on the responsibility of pulling whatever type of permits for citations.
You would need to update that disclosure to include this order that I will make today, which you will receive in the mail. So just make sure that any disclosures you're making includes that there wasn't just the hearing last year, there's also this order. Just make sure they're aware of everything that's transpired.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's all I have for now.
Okay. Based on the evidence testimony received, I'll find that there is a violation for allowing repairs and alterations. The repairs specifically, just for everybody's benefit, the repairs and alterations that I see in the evidence is that front-facing door on the accessory structure that has been added, the eaves that have been replaced, as well as what looks like to be substantial framing work conducted on the interior of the structure. But for permits for all of that work to be obtained by April 15th, 2026. If not brought into compliance by that date, a fine in the amount of $250 a day will be assessed until compliance is met. I am going to abate the question of costs on this one, abate, until we see what happens with compliance. If Ms. Ruffing is able to get a contractor hired and this brought into compliance, I think that may be a win. She has expressed to me financial concerns. I don't want her paying $308 to the city when she needs to save her money for a contractor. So I'm going to abate that question for the time being. If this case resolves and the city would like to bring it back, I will entertain a hearing on that alone. If it resolves and I never hear it again, that's the city's prosecutorial discretion. And just so on that, that's me saying, I'm not saying you never have to pay the $308 for costs they've asked for, but I'm saying I'm abating that question now. I'm not deciding it now because I want you to spend your money in getting compliance, and I want to give you the opportunity of showing good faith that you want to work this and get it fixed, or if it gets sold, you know, so be it. Are there anything further anybody needs on this case?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ruffin.
May I leave now?
Yes, ma'am.
Case number 2025-635, Jerry Pekka Kamamarki, owner, Jana Kamamarki, owner, location of violation 2278 Jessica Lane, Kissimmee, Florida.
Good afternoon, Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I'm presenting this case for the property located at 2278 Jessica Lane. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items. Copy of the observation notice sent and emailed to the owner. Copy of the courtesy notice sent and emailed to the owner. Copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail to the owner and also emailed to the owner. Another copy of the notice violation sent by certified mail to the owner and also emailed to the owner. Copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner and emailed to the owner and posted on the property and City Hall. Copy of the PowerPoint presentation, copy of the affidavit of posting, evidence of mailings, copy of the deed to the property, copy of the code sections in violation, copy of the costs incurred if the special magistrate finds a respondent in violation in the amount of $346.78. On July 17th, 2025, I received a complaint about the pool water at this location. On July 17th, I went to verify and the pool water was black. I took 2 photos. On July 17th, an observation notice and photo of the pool water were sent and emailed to the owner. On July 29th, a reinspection was performed and the pool water was still not maintained, and I took 1 photo. On July 29th, a courtesy notice was sent and emailed to the owner. On August 14th, the reinspection was performed and the pool water was still not maintained, and I took another photo. On August 14th, the notice violation was sent by certified mail to the owner and emailed to the owner. On August 15th, the owner emailed me and stated they were trying to get someone to clean the pool. I gave them until October 29th to have the pool water clean and clear. On September 1st, the owner emailed me and asked me to perform a reinspection. On September 2nd, a reinspection was performed and the pool water was a little better, but still not clear. When I got back to the office, I emailed the owner a photo of the pool water, and I took 1 photo. On September 26th, I received another complaint about other violations. I went to verify the car in the driveway had a flat tire, so on September 26th, another notice violation with the abandoned vehicle violation added was sent by certified mail and emailed to the owner. On November 13th, a reinspection was performed. The pool water was not clear, but the vehicle was in compliance. I took 1 photo. On November 14th, the statement of violation notice of hearing was sent by certified mail to the owner and also emailed to the owner and posted on the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed, and I took 2 photos. On December 15th, a reinspection was performed, and the pool water was black and worse than it was when I started the case, and I took 2 photos. That's algae all on top of that pool water. On December 31st and January 16th, re-inspections were performed. The property was still in non-compliance, and I took a photo on each inspection date. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of allowing the pool water to be unmaintained and not in a clean and sanitary condition at this location, and to have the pool water clean and clear by January 30th, 2026, or pay a fine of $250 a day till compliance is met. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing this case before the special magistrate in the amount of $346.78 to be paid within 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And that concludes my presentation.
You may have said, and I missed it, but is there anybody residing at the property?
No, they live in Finland. That's why I emailed everything too.
I see. Okay, based on the evidence testimony presented, I find in favor of the city, find the respondent is in violation for allowing the pool water to not be kept in a clean and sanitary manner. Order the respondent to have the pool water clean and clear by January 30th, 2026. If not brought in compliance by that date, a fine of $250 per day shall accrue until compliance is met. Also will order the respondent to pay the administrative costs incurred in the prosecution of the case in the amount of $346.78. That amount to be due within 7 days of the date of my written order.
Thank you.
Case number 2025-9901, Hazel R. Johnson Revocable Living Trust owner, M. Dabalski tenant, location of violation 1451 Kingston Way, Kissimmee, Florida.
Good afternoon, Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I am presenting this case for the property located at 1451 Kingston Way. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the observation notice issued to the owner, copy of the courtesy notice sent to the owner and the tenant, copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail to the owner and the tenant, a copy of the statement of violation notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner and the tenant and posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the affidavit of posting, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, evidence of mailings, copy of the deed to the property, copy of the code sections in violation, copy of the costs incurred if the special magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $315.25. On September 15th, 2025, I received a complaint about inoperable vehicles at this location. On September 15th, I went to verify the complaint, and there were 2 vehicles in violation. I also noticed there was a tenant at this location with no active landlord license. On September 15th, an observation notice was issued to the owner and the tenant, and I took 5 photos.
The flat tires, they were on the white car.
Yes. Well, they were on both, actually, and both had expired tags.
So both cars had flat tires?
Yes.
Okay.
On September 25th, a reinspection was performed, and the vehicles were still there in violation, and there was still no active landlord license. I took 1 photo. On September 25th, a courtesy notice was sent to the owner and the tenant. On October 14th, the reinspection was performed, and the vehicles were still in violation, and there was still no active landlord license, and I took 3 photos. On October 15th, a notice violation was sent to the owner and the tenant by certified mail. On November 26th, a reinspection was performed, and the vehicles were still there in violation, and there was still no active landlord license. I called the owner and explained the violations to her. I took 3 photos.
Was there an understanding when you explained the violation?
Yes, sir. On December 30th, a reinspection was performed, and the vehicles were still there in violation and still no active landlord license. I took 3 more photos. On December 31st, a statement of violation notice of hearing was sent to the owner and the tenant by certified mail and posted on the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed, and I took 2 photos. On January 16th, a reinspection was performed. The vehicles were still there in violation. There was still no active landlord license, and I took 2 photos. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of allowing a rental property without a landlord business tax receipt license and abandoned vehicles at this location, and to have the landlord license obtained and the vehicles operable and with current tags or removed from the property by January 30th, 2026, or pay a fine of $250 a day until compliance is met. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing this case before the special magistrate in the amount of $315.25 to be paid within the 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Since both the owner and the tenant are named as respondents, obviously the tenant is not responsible for the licensure violation, but are you looking to have tenant and owner jointly and severally responsible for the vehicle violation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is going to be my finding today. Then, based on the evidence testimony received, I find that the city has presented competent substantial evidence. There is a violation of city code related to proper licensure or proper permits to operate the rental of the property. Business tax receipt and rental permit need to be obtained by January 30th, 2026. Also, that applies only to the landlord. We'll find that the respondent and landlord are jointly and severally responsible for removing those vehicles from the subject property also by January 30th, 2026. Because of the difference, one of those applying only to the landlord and one applying to both, I'm actually going to break the fines down into two sets and have, I'm going to do $200 a day for the landlord license and permitting issue. As to the vehicles, $50 a day. And again, one of those fines is if it begins to accrue, only landlord would be responsible for, the other or both would potentially be responsible for. For the administrative costs, I'm just going to make both parties jointly and severally responsible for the administrative costs incurred in prosecution, because you have to go to the site, I can't break down, which times are for the vehicle and which times were because you go to the site and you inspect everything. I understand that. So both parties will be jointly and severally liable for the cost of prosecution, the amount of $315.26. That amount to be due within 7 days of the date of my written order.
Thank you.
Unfinished business? None. New business? None. Next scheduled meeting, February 18, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Any further business from the city? Nope. And we are adjourned. Oh, you see, you give me a month off and I forget how to do it.
Question.